Ladies and gentlemen, the India-EU trade deal happened earlier this year, and it was really the mother of all deals. And it was followed up by what many call the India-US trade deal, or the father of all deals, as many are talking about. But clearly, the India-EU trade deal was extremely comprehensive, and it brings together 1/4 of the global economy. I won't waste any more time. I want to open this up to our panelists. All three of them have been working very closely on the India-EU deal and the India-EFTA deal as well. So let me begin with Ambassador Ackermann, the German ambassador to India. How would you rate the importance of this deal at a time when the relations between US and Europe are deteriorating? You've paused the ratification of the deal with the United States because of the Supreme Court ruling. Does the relationship with India now become doubly important?
So thank you very much, and it's great to be here. But I'd like to say the difference between all the trade deals with the US and the trade deals with Europe is that the deals with the US are no free trade deals. No? I mean, this is a deal with tariffs. With Europe, you have a free trade deal, and that's, I think, a commitment, a conviction that you are promoters and believers in free trade. And I think you cannot underestimate the importance of this deal between EU and India. It brings together an enormous market. 450 million Europeans and 1.4 billion Indians form one single market. And this is, a clear signal to the world, a message to the world that we are the promoters of and the believers in free trade. And therefore, I think the mother of all deals is has a little pathos in the word, but it's not wrong. Whereas, whether the deal with the US is the father of all deals, I would be not so sure.
No, you're absolutely right, because it covers almost 97% or 98% of goods traded between both nations. It has a mobility partnership as well. Ambassador Thesleff, how do you see this deal contributing to the growth of our economies? How is Sweden looking to leverage the fruits of the India-EU trade deal?
Thank you very much. I think you said it yourself. It covers almost 97% of all trade. But we should not only see it as a trade agreement, even though we call it the FTA, because it's a signal when it comes to investments. It's a signal when it comes to engaging with one another. It's a signal to develop together, not only make in India, but make with India, make with Europe. So that's let's say the broader signal, and that's actually the growth signal if we look ahead. And for those who are not yet in Europe or not yet in India, maybe the barriers were too high. Maybe the entrance ticket was too expensive in the past. With the free trade agreement, with what it brings, you lower those barriers, and I think that's where we will see the big growth and the big change. SMEs, middle-sized companies, those are the ones that create the jobs. Those are the ones that create the growth. And we will see it in India, we will for sure see it in Sweden.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, while the India-EU free trade agreement will get ratified formally and will be off the block by sometime next year, because it will go through a period of legal scrubbing, then the text has to be converted in all EU languages, it has to be approved by the EU Parliament, so it is still a long process off. But the EFTA has already happened, it's operational. Ambassador Stener, could you give us a sense of how this is benefiting Norway and India right now, and what is the kind of uptick in trade between India and EFTA regions that you see?
Well, that's right. The Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement between the EFTA countries and India entered into force 1st October last year. So it's already in force. The EFTA group, for those who don't know, there are 4 countries. It's Norway, Switzerland, Iceland and Liechtenstein. 4 small countries that are not part of the EU, but all rich countries and altogether quite big economies. And for Norway, this Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement is a milestone in the relationship to India, for sure. It is very important, and as it's being said here, the trade agreement with the EU is not only a trade agreement. The agreement with EFTA is for sure not. It's called Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement. It also has a commitment from the EFTA countries to promote investments. So this is very important to us. Let me also say, though, I'm sitting here with my German and Swedish colleague. Sweden is our neighboring country, and Germany is the biggest market that Norway is exporting to. 66% of the Norwegian export is going to the EU. And therefore, I also think that the EU FTA with India is important for Norway, because a lot of the things that we are selling to other countries outside Europe, they are being designed in Norway and then produced in maybe another European country, maybe in Sweden, maybe in Germany. And therefore also this it will be a bigger ecosystem that will work very well together, and I also think will benefit the Indian economy.
All right, thank you for those opening remarks, Ambassador. Ambassador Ackermann, if I were to ask you, how does this bring the two economies together in the field of manufacturing? The reason why I ask that is because be it Europe, be it India, both have to now stand up for their own security, defense, economic security as well. In such times, how do we foster a closer economic and manufacturing partnership specifically?
So I think these are two elements to your question. One is the question of, will India grow in its manufacturing capacities for, delivering to Europe, for example? And I'm, as Jan said, convinced that this FTA will be a booster for investment, for FTA in India. I'll tell you one example. The Indo-German Chamber of Commerce had an online seminar on what the FTA would mean for companies in Germany. And we had 1,800 companies signing in for this webinar as we speak, and that's an enormous amount of companies being interested in coming into it. So I think manufacturing, you will see that once this thing is ratified next year, by the end of this year maybe even, we'll have a growth of FDI in India. Now, your second part is defense and security, and as you are aware, the EU has also agreed upon with India on a security roadmap and a security partnership. And I think in our countries, respective countries, we are all very interested in setting up a meaningful defense partnership with India that includes production, that includes manufacturing for German, Swedish, European defense interests. We still hope that this country to my right will join the European Union one day, so I cannot speak for Norway here, but one day hopefully I can. But with Sweden and Germany and France and Italy, I think India as a security hub for production is growingly interesting for us.
Right. If I may ask a follow-up question, Ambassador, and that would be about our defense relationship. We've had a close defense relationship in the past, but we see that the submarine deal between ThyssenKrupp and MDL is in final stages. If that were to happen, how will this probably solidify or strengthen our defense partnership for the future?
So I think the submarine deal is, I'm very confident that in the coming weeks we'll see some movement on that side. This will be a game changer for our bilateral security cooperation, and you'll see here again that parts of this production, of course, will take place in India, the biggest part, the larger part. And that means that, ThyssenKrupp will set up shop here in India. MDL, its venture partner in Mumbai, will produce. And I think that's a wonderful example how, India and European countries can join hands and come up with a product that is to the use of all of us.
Right. Ambassador Thesleff, to ask you about where we are right now with the India-EU FTA. Has the legal scrubbing begun? By when do you expect the first draft to be circulated among EU nations?
I know that the legal scrub has started. The prospect for that, the time prospect, because it's not only done on the European side, it's done on the Indian side. I don't want to predict that, but if you look at other free trade agreements that India has entered into, or even other partners have entered into, even before the agreements enter into force. This starts the process, both in India and in the other countries. What is our task now, before the entry into force of the agreement, is to pave the way, prepare for it. We have to sell this agreement internally in Europe, internally in India. Explain what are the benefits, what is changing, how can you access a market that was inaccessible before. I know for the SMEs, the EU is setting up focal points, both in Brussels but also in India, to see how one can facilitate that process. In the case of my country, and I'm sure it's the case of others also, we will also have campaigns. In Sweden we call it Time for India, and in India we'll call it Time for Sweden. But it's really, this is not a waste of time. This is actually the run-up to the entry into force, and we should make the most out of it, and we will.
If I were to follow up, how can India make the most out of it? Over the last 1 year, there have been a number of reforms, bringing down the GST rates to 2. Deregulation has been a constant exercise. Quality control orders, I think almost 70 of them have been done away with. What more can be done in terms of the ease of doing business? Because I believe non-tariff barriers will be a very important part of the FTA.
No, a lot is happening, and a lot has been done. I think to reap the full benefits out of the agreement that has been concluded, we have to continue that process. And there are things, you mentioned the QCOs, a lot of them have been done away with, but there are some who still remain. We are very happy that the intellectual property rules were included in the negotiations, but there are still, I think, things to be done on the IP rules. There are, if you look at, for example, something that is very close to our heart is the green technology, green transition, decarbonization. There are still, between different states in India, individual rules that are for that state, but not nationwide. So all these things, the harmonization of rules doesn't stop. And we are convinced, and we see that India is committed to do that, and that's what we should pursue.
Right. Ambassador Stener, from your point of view, are there certain recommendations for ease of doing business, something that can be done better?
Well, I agree with my Swedish colleague here. A lot is being done. A lot has been done, and a lot is happening as we speak. We see a big commitment from the Indian side to try and ease the doing of business in this country. For us, the Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement in itself is something that is making it easier for our businesses. They are looking more positively at India because of that. And also there is a particular EFTA office set up in Invest India to help those businesses who would like to invest in India, and where they can also raise concerns that they have. So we see a lot is being done, but this is a very complex society. It's the most populous country in the world. It's 28 states here, and meaning 28 different sets of regulations also. So this is complex, and of course there is still work to be done. We just see goodwill for that work to be done also. So we have a good cooperation.
Right. If I were to ask you about mobility, mobility is going to be a big part of the India-UK FTA, India-EU FTA, and with Norway as well. How do you see the requirement of high technology professionals in Norway increasing in the coming years, and what is the opportunity for Indian professionals there?
Well, there are a lot of opportunities, and in the last 10-15 years there has been a lot of Indians coming to Norway. Norway is still a very small country compared to India, and also compared to other European countries. But we have about 20,000 Indian professionals in Norway now, and in relation to our population it's quite a lot. They are very active in the tech business and the service industries, and we also see the TEPA is helping in this way. It's helping for more focus. We also have Norwegian tech companies. The biggest Norwegian banks, they have big operations in India, so they also employ Indian professionals here in India. And this is definitely easing up, and it's happening also as we speak.
All right, I'll just take the final set of questions. Ambassador Ackermann, when it comes to the automobile industry, how satisfied are you with the kind of tariff arrangements that have been arrived at? German companies, European car makers, Volvo, they've been around in India for decades. But do you feel that you'll get more market access now?
Yes, I think for us, the automotive chapter in the FTA is a good chapter, and I think it will lead to more investment also by the German car makers here in India. You know, all the big car makers are here, and they produce their cars, and I think they see an enormous potential for their upper echelon, high quality cars here in India, and the FTA will, for us, be a huge step forward in that direction.
All right, we've completely run out of time, but I'd like to thank Ambassador Thesleff, Ambassador Ackermann, and Ambassador Stener for being with us here on this panel on the India-EU Free Trade Agreement. This is a momentous year for India-EU relations, and let's hope this FTA gets ratified fast and we're able to enjoy the fruits of this agreement. Thank you.